All right, for the recording. Welcome back. We are ACI Course 6, Class 10, woohoo, on October 6, 2024. Let's gather our minds here as we usually do, please. Bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them there with you just by way of your thinking of them. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you. Smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiating from them. That beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize that the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. We're learning that this is possible. We're learning how it's possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. And with that intention, turn your mind back to your precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please Please teach us that. And they're so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with the blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings reach their total awakening for the benefit of every single other. Last class, we learned that there were 4 different things that are given the name perfection of wisdom. And of those 4, only one of them is the actual perfection of wisdom. And one of them is the perfection of wisdom teaching that Buddha is giving. So you are supposed to, for your quiz, just describe these 4 different ones. So for a time, I'm just gonna say them. The natural perfection of wisdom, also called natural nirvana, is another word for ultimate reality, which is another word for the emptiness of all existing things, often just called emptiness. It was never involved in any kind of mental affliction. In the mind of anyone who's experiencing it directly, there's something significant about that. It's an absence, and so an unchanging thing. The second meaning or way the term's used is the textural perfection of wisdom. Any teaching which takes as its principal subject matter the unerring presentation of the path of the greater way and its result. So not just any Dharma teaching is a perfection of wisdom teaching. Then the third, the path perfection of wisdom. Path meaning the realizations in the mind of a being who's studying the path, practicing the path. So the wisdom of a bodhisattva imbued with extraordinary forces of method and wisdom. And then the fourth one was the result perfection of wisdom. which is the actual perfection of wisdom, because that's the term for the omniscience of a fully enlightened being. Having achieved that state where their perfections are perfected, paramita, gone to the other side. So then we also learned last class about the two extremes, yuta and metta, and about what it means to grasp to the extreme of existence and what it means to grasp to the extreme of non-existence, meaning to believe them such that we interact with our world in mistaken ways, not realizing that we're mistaken because of these two wrong beliefs. So the extreme of grasping, the Yupe Tarnzen, means thinking that things exist independent of our projections forced by karma, highest school. When we experience an object, whether it's a living object or an inanimate object, and we're experiencing that object as if its identity is in it from it, it means we are not holding it to be our projected reality forced by karma. We're believing that it exists in a way that it does not actually exist. They call it grasping to something as there that is not there. The self-existent thing is not there. The thing is there. Cashla said, such as thinking that lying could ever get you the profit in a business deal. Right? That's a little different than thinking the pen exists from its own side. A skillful example. Then the extreme of non-existence, the Mepe Tarnzen, is grasping to the non-existence of that thing or other that doesn't exist in the way that we thought. If things don't exist in the way that we hold them to exist, well, then they must not exist at all. It's called discounting. Saying that because the pen is nothing but my projection, there's no pen here. There's no real pen because it's just my projection. It's not true that there's no pen here because it's just my projection. In fact, there is a pen here because it's our projection. So we're weaving our way between these two misperceptions, something that's there that's not actually there, and the fact that they're not there at all. The way things are there is through nominal existence. We'll talk about it more. So then that brought us to that fourfold distinction. They say the fourfold distinction made by sages of the middle way. Nothing exists naturally, But it's not that nothing exists at all. Everything exists in name only, but it's not that they exist naturally. So nothing exists in the way they seem to exist, but it's not that they don't exist at all. Things exist by way of projections, but not in them from them, the way they look, right? We're back to the beginning. So those fourfold distinctions helps us stay on that middle path and not fall off either cliff. So next in the sutra, Buddha says, thus is it, and thus it is, and thus is it. Like he means business here. And he says, any living beings who receive an explanation of this sutra and who are not made afraid and are not frightened and who do not become frightened are truly wondrous. And I don't know, through any of this so far, have you gotten afraid? Trina says no. Yay, you're wondrous. Anybody else gotten afraid? Technically, if we were like deeply following what's been being said, we're seeing how everything in our experience is our personal responsibility. If we really deeply get that, it is terrifying because it's so big, it's so huge, and there's so much nastiness, it seems, in the world. So I can see why Buddha brings this up. I think we've been very sweetly trained from the get-go by Geshe Michael and his wisdom to like coddle us along the way and allow us to come to our own conclusion. Okay, I understand it's all my responsibility, but I'm keeping it right a little bit at arm's length. And then slowly, right, as our capacity grows, we go, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, right? I see. But by the time we're really ready to take it all on our shoulders, we've grown our wisdom such that it's not a burden at all. It's like, of course, yes. And this is how the world changes, by way of my behavior. Any other way, it won't change. Who's responsible for my behavior? Me. Yeah, it's not so hard, right? Just zip your lip when you want to say something nasty and practice saying something kind. It really isn't that difficult. Okay, so we are still here by class 10. It means you have not run away afraid. And that means you qualify as being truly wondrous, says Lord Buddha. And Lord Buddha knows. So please pat yourself on the back for still being here. Truly. Like if you ever need a rejoiceable, think, I studied ACI 6 all the way through. And I didn't run away scared. And that's a really good thing. Hooray. Right? Okay. So this last class, it's about the emptiness of function. Geshe entitled the class, How Empty Things Still Work. And I think I've heard myself say that when we say, even though things are empty, they still work. Even though things are empty, it's still a pen, right? Even though. And then I've also heard myself say, that's technically a lower school statement. And Geshe has said that's a wimpy way to hold to the emptiness of things that function. Even though they're empty, they still work. And yet we see it in scripture. Even Nagarjuna, in some of his text, he says, even though such and such, still this happens. We see it in Lamachupa. We see it in different places that are highest and middle way. And I don't know whether it's a translator, when it's somebody translated outside of our lineage, if it's a translator misunderstanding, or if the writer was doing that on purpose. So Geshe points out that sometimes we'll take a stance as if having a view of a lower school and teach it very convincingly as truth, which they're just incomplete, but teach it as if this is what you need to know to an audience that isn't even at that level yet, right? To bring them up like one or two steps without trying to get them to jump to the top of the ladder dangerously. So when we hear a phrase, even though such and such is empty, it can still work, we have to wonder, is this person speaking to the highest of their understanding, or are they speaking to an audience that's so beginning that would be a significant improvement in their understanding to get to the conclusion, even though things are empty, they still work. So tonight's class is about this distinction between saying, even though things are empty, they still work, and because things are empty, they work. Right? Which one is the highest school? I already gave it away. Because things are empty, they work. Because things are nothing but projection, they work. Anything that's not a projection can't work. And I still hear my mind when it hears nothing but a projection. I feel my mind go, oh, so not real. And how can a not real thing do anything? Can my not real car key, like cardboard cutout car key, start my car? No, it has to be a real key to start the car. So, our minds, my mind, hears, oh, nothing but a projection. And I think not real, less real than the key that's there. So in that regard, to be able to say, even though my key is empty, it can't start my car because it still has some reality. It has some nature of realness to it, more than a cardboard cutout key, because cardboard cutout keys don't work. Where there's a part of our still believing in self-existent things that makes us desperately need something to be real. And of course, projections are real. We've never experienced anything that wasn't a projection. Things that are not projections aren't just not real, they are impossible. They have never been there. We've never experienced one before. But we think we have. And we think it so strongly that when we hear, oh, nothing but a projection, we get mixed up. So we're going to work through that and see how it manifests in our experience. So Geshe-la gave us this statement, Tibetan statement, Ja Che Tepa Chunam Tongkyung. Ja Che means things work. Tepa means proper or correct. Chunam is all existing things. Tong is empty. And kyung usually means but when it comes between two sentences, but here it means even though. So it really is saying, even though things are empty, they still work properly. More accurate would be without the kyung. Existing things are empty, and so they work properly. But then we're going to talk about what do we mean by work properly? Is it that the key starts the car? Is that working properly? And when it doesn't start the car, it's not working properly? Or does working properly mean working according to the laws of karma? Which means whether the key starts the car or doesn't start the car, it's working properly. Because it's working in the way that my karmic seeds are making it work. All right. So we really haven't studied the different schools yet. The difference between all the other schools and highest school is this understanding about the emptiness of function. The detailists, the sutras, mind only, they all understand to some extent that the no self nature of subjects and the no self nature of objects. But even mind only school level doesn't quite grasp the emptiness of function. They are still a functionalist school, meaning in order for something to do something, it must have some kind of identity in it. Not completely self-existent, of course, but there is something different between pans and bananas. A pen can write, A banana cannot. There has to be something unique to the pen that allows my projection of this pen, me writing with this pen, for it to be able to do that. It's a convincing argument. Highest school, Prasangika Madhyamika, in Tibetan called Umapa. Middle wayers. They're the ones who say, saying, even though things are empty, they still can work, is a lower level of understanding. Umapa holds that function is completely driven by the karmic seeds ripening of the mind of the experiencers in any given experience. So the function between subjects and objects, which is going on all the time, that too is dependent origination. That too is karmic seeds ripening a mental image of that function happening. So to explore all this, Geshe Michael likes to use two different examples. One of them is investment strategies, and the other one is medicines. So, why do investment strategies work? Why do medicines work? And if we just stop to think about it, the deeper question should probably be, why do we expect our investment strategies to work to bring us the result that we want? Why do we expect the medicine to bring about the feeling better that we want? It's easy to investigate whether or not those investment strategies or that medicine actually works to bring us what we want. We just look. Does everybody do the same investment strategy I think is the best? Does everybody get the same result when they do that investment strategy? If they did, there would only be one investment strategy, wouldn't there? It would be the one that worked all the time for everybody. How come? There's, risky investment, balanced investment, low risk investment, and within that, all kinds of different avenues that you can invest in. How come there's three if they work? Right? They must not work, because otherwise there'd only be one, the one that works. Geshe says, if there is an investment strategy that works, somebody would have figured it out by now, don't you think? And technically, Buddha did figure it out. And what he figured out was, be generous, give, share, right? Be the vessel through which that wealth flows, to always ensure that you have the wealth that you need to be the vessel for the wealth to flow. And it's like, well, that's a different result, right? We're thinking the result we want is this, chunk of funds in the bank account that we're sure will be there when we're 90 years old. And in order to make sure it's there when we're 90 years old, it needs to be parked in some safe account, right? And it's like, actually, not right. Well, yeah, but if the 60-year-old just gives everything away and keeps giving everything away, by the time they're 90, right, they don't have anything left and they're living under a bridge, we think. But, right, if I'd said to you, take your bank account, give it to the first homeless person you see and walk away. I don't know, I haven't done it, I can't do it. Certainly, the more stressful things have become, the more generous Sumati and I have become. But not to the extent where, you know, a dollar comes in, a dollar goes out. But if we got it, if we really understood that, that's what we would do. And I watched Geshe Michael do it for years. And Sumati and I were in the position of actually paying their bills for a while. And I saw that it was coming in and going out very fast. And it never seemed to accumulate. And now, 20 years later, you know, he can't give it away fast enough because it's coming back so fast. And he was in that time gap in the period of time that I was seeing him in debt, apparently in debt. He was never worried, ever. So wisdom looks extraordinarily different than what our mistaken understanding is so sure we understand correctly. Ouch, I don't know if that came in right. So again, lower schools understand pretty well the emptiness of the subject side and the emptiness of the object side. But when it comes to the way things function, they hold that there has to be some nature in that functioning thing, because otherwise anything could make anything. And that's not experience. Function also refers to the way two things interact. I mean, that's really what we mean by function. For the pen to write, more than two things have to interact. I have to interact with it. It has to interact with the paper. I'm also somehow indirectly interacting with the paper. And I'm interacting with something else to be able to know what to write. So there's subject and object going on. And there's also the emptiness of the writing. We'll get back to it. So what about the emptiness of medicine working? You know, you have an infection. You need antibiotics. Penicillin is the best antibiotic for your infection. Here's the penicillin. You're not allergic. Take the penicillin, you will get better. There's an active ingredient in the penicillin. And that's how the penicillin can work, right? If it didn't have the active ingredient penicillin, it could not kill your penicillin sensitive bacteria. There has to be something in the penicillin for it to be what takes care of your infection. But does everybody who takes the penicillin get better from the penicillin? No. Some people get better. Some people get worse. Some people, no response at all. And then we say, oh, well, the doctor got it wrong. The infection wasn't penicillin sensitive. We just need a different antibiotic. And we start over again. Here, try this one. Same thing. Maybe it works. Maybe it harms. Maybe it does nothing. That's experience. That's life experience. It's not theoretical. We've all had experiences where you put the key in the car, turn the car, and it doesn't start. And we say, oh, because the battery went dead. And we think, see, perfect explanation for why the key didn't start the car. But that's still mistaken, isn't it? Because if the key starting the car depended on the battery, then the key wasn't the cause of starting the car. And if the car depends on the battery, then why do we need a key? Oh, we need both, plus other stuff. Right. So none of it is the actual cause for starting the car, because we need all of it. So when a medicine works, what's happening? Is it a good result for the medicine that you take to give you the result that you are taking it for? I think it's a good result, right? Why would we take something to get a bad result? That's a good question. So if the medicine works, that's a good result. It has to be the result of some way in which we help somebody feel better. So what's the real cause of the function getting better? It's the helping somebody else feel better seeds that ripen as taking the medicine helping me. Well, then why do we need to take the medicine? Just eat a cookie. Technically, that could work. It would show us the level of our understanding of emptiness, because you wouldn't have to take anything to get better. And curiously, a lot of ailments that we get do get better on their own. You know, so we've proved it to ourselves. You don't have to take anything to get better with every head cold we've ever had. But we just say, oh, because viruses only last 7 to 10 days, right? We have an answer, a mistaken answer for everything. Instead of, oh, my karma, which is the actual answer to how things work, by karma. So is taking the pill, right? Here's your pill. You put it in your hand, you have your glass of water, down the hatch. Is taking a pill an experience that's happening in this deceptive reality? Yes. Haven't we learned that every experience in deceptive reality is mistaken in the sense that we believe the subject object interaction between are happening in them, from them, and not merely as projections? So here's the taking the pill is also something happening in our deceptive reality that seems to have some kind of reality of its own, but in fact has to be our projections ripening me taking my antibiotic. What about 4 days later? Your fever has broken, right? You're feeling better. Is that an experience in deceptive reality? Yes. So that too is ripening seeds from some past deed that we are calling me getting better from taking my antibiotic. Any experience that we have in deceptive reality is deceptive in the sense that it seems like it's happening in it, from it, but it can't be. It has to be ripening results of my own past behavior because I'm experiencing it. Unique to me. If the function is a positive function, something pleasant, something we hoped we'd get, it's a ripening result of some past virtue, some past kindness. If the function is an unpleasant function, it's a ripening result of some kind of unkindness, some kind of selfishness. Neutral, if there are such things as neutral karmas. We can't experience anything that's not our projections forced by karmic seeds ripening. Functions of things are part of our experience in deceptive reality. So they have to be projections. They can't have anything unique to them. They can't have anything in them, because if they have their identity in them, even a sliver, then that would influence my mind to see it in the way that they determine. We can understand it with the pen. We can understand it with the taxi cab. We can understand it with the angry yelling boss. But it's hard to understand it with the fact that a tomato seed makes a tomato plant. A tomato seed never makes a banana plant. And with that experience, we confirm there must be something in the tomato seed that as long as my karmas provide everything that that seed needs, I will experience a tomato plant with tomatoes. But the seed, it has something in it. Because if not, my karma could bring to it everything that it needs to turn into a new car, let alone a banana plant. Why can't anything be anything if they're nothing but my projection? Why do tomato seeds have to make tomato plants if it's nothing but my projection? Because it's nothing but my projection, tomato seeds must make tomato plants, right? It's harder. It's harder to wrap our mind around. I can rephrase it. Because of our ripening projections, tomato seeds must make tomato plants when they have all the necessary conditions to do so. Our seeds ripen. Tomato seeds are specific for tomato plants. We make that. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's kind of a good thing, right? We can rely on tomato seeds to make tomato plants if all the other factors are there. Otherwise, if you wanted tomatoes in your garden and you didn't know what seeds to plant, how would we ever get tomatoes? When we first moved to Diamond Mountain, I had a packet of store-bought wildflower seeds specific to that area of southern Arizona. And I broadcast them, and I even watered them a little bit. And kale and radishes and I don't know, broccoli or something like that sprouted. And, just as I was studying all of this stuff and actually sharing it with others, teaching the review courses, it's like, what's that radish doing out there? There were radish plants, like with little radishes. Where'd that come from? And then I remembered, my broadcast wildflowers, like, where are the poppies? What happened? What does our mind say? Somebody messed up a batch of wildflower seeds. But how likely is that really? That they wouldn't have been found and recalled and, figured out that they weren't really wild, right? They were wildflower seeds. My karma shifted to prove the emptiness of wildflower seeds and radish seeds. Whatever your karmic seeds ripen, that's what we experience. So then it's like, if I had my heart set on wildflowers, I would have been really upset that we got radishes instead. Instead, Samati likes radishes. Great. Look what I found in the desert for you. But our life would be chaos, wouldn't it? If our seeds didn't make some kind of consistency. We are making the consistency. Gluing information together into an identity. Gluing that identity together into function. Gluing that function together into a result. By choice? No, not by choice. Might be nice if it were by choice, but it's not. All right, we're already at break time, and I've hardly gotten started. So I'm going to stop the share, pause recording. So maybe we're catching on, and it's like, okay, I kind of get what you mean by my car key and my car, or even my wildflower seeds and my garden with radishes in it. But what about something like the sun rising every 24 hours? How can that be my projection unique to me? Everybody experiences the sun rising in the same way. That can't be nothing but projections. 8 billion people every 24 hours, let alone all the little creatures that experience something, right? From nighttime to daytime, whether they call it sunrise or not, they're experiencing it. Don't our minds want to insist that there's a sun that's rising every day because our earth is turning and we're rotating? And, is Buddhism saying, well, that's not really happening? We're just all having a group illusion that there's this thing that spits out solar flares from time to time, that makes beautiful aurora borealises if you're in the right location. It's like we want so desperately for something to be real. And that's what we're really trying to work on, is when we say, I need something to be real, that we're able to get to the conclusion that projections are real and self-existent things are not. And we have it backwards. We think self-existent things are more real than projected things. And we're digging away at that because that's the cliff of things exist in the way that they seem. And if they don't exist like that, they don't exist at all. If they're just projections, they don't really exist. We're trying to walk this middle path. So what is happening with the sun rising? If we were there in the dark, facing east, our experience would be the sky changing colors, getting lighter and lighter. And then the first little sliver of bright shape, and then more of that, and more of that, until it becomes kind of a round, and then so bright you can't look at it anymore, and then everything daylight, and then it never reaches the place where you can go, oh, sunrise. Because by the time we say, oh, sunrise, it's moved a little bit. So what's happening as half the planet is experiencing sunrise and the other half of the planet is not? Is every being having the same projection? No, but are all those beings having the projection? Sun came up today. What if you're a yogi deep in a cave with no windows? Is the sun coming up for you? Not the experience. Do you think it is? If you had a clock, you would be able to say, yes, it's sunshiny outside, even if you never saw it. If you didn't have a clock, you would quickly get to the point where you just didn't know what was out there. Daytime, nighttime, sunlight, moonlight, on Mars, you would quickly reach the place where you couldn't confirm anything out there. You would see that what you think is out there, based on what was out there when you went in, you believe is still out there. But you have no way to confirm it if confirming it requires seeing it, hearing it, smelling, taste, touching it. So when the sun is rising, what's happening is that we are receiving sensory input. Our karmic seeds ripen that sensory input into an identity called sunrise. Whoever is experiencing sunrise has similar seeds to everybody else experiencing sunrise. We'd be tempted to call it a collective karma, but that would start a debate that goes on for a long time. The sunrise does happen, but not the way we believe it to. It happens by way of the projection sunrise onto the data, the information at any given moment. Noon is the same thing. Sunset, the same thing. Projections ripening of the beings experiencing it. Projections ripening of the beings who believe it's happening, whether they're experiencing it or not. You don't have to see the sunrise to know it happened. If you're indoors and then suddenly you go outside and it's daylight, whereas the last time you were out there, it was nighttime. You know the sun rose. But did it? Yes, no, yes, no, no, yes. Not the way we think. And yes, it rose. By way of karma's ripening sunrise onto that information. What if there wasn't that information? Is there ever no information at all? For sunrises or midnights or cars or yelling bosses, no, there's always information. When our projection ripens, that ripening is the nominal result of information processed into its identity. When we wonder, well, what was that data that got the label sunrise? When we go looking for it, we find something more subtle, getting the label, the data that got the label sunrise. Well, what data gave me that? And we can go deeper and find the data that made the sunrise. And we can keep going deeper and deeper, looking for the real data, the deepest, real, smallest particle that makes us see sunrise. We desperately want to find something. We will never find anything other than the process happening. Information gets a label. Information gets a label. Information gets a label. When we try to peel it away to find the real thing that gets the label, we will eventually give up. We will say, oh, there's never anything but information getting a label. Data receiving a name. a turn. It's never not that. Wherever you stop, you found data that's received a label. You can always go deeper, but there's no need to go deeper. When you reach that point where you go, oh, wait, I get it. It's the process happening that they're describing. Not I should be able to find a real thing. And when we get there, our need for a real thing falls away for a little bit, right? In my experience, it comes right back once you're out of that meditation. But when we can reach that aha, oh my gosh, nothing but the process, we have this beautiful insight into how every experience we do and can experience is in fact happening. So when we see a thing change, which is what it is to be a functioning thing, what's happening is our projections are shifting. Information receiving a label is just shifting. And it appears that the thing getting the label is changing. You see somebody down the street walking towards you, and you recognize them. Oh, there's my friend coming at me. But when we analyze, the information that we're getting is color and shape a certain size. And then it gets a little bigger. And then it gets a little bigger as it's moving towards me. Getting these new projections moment by moment. My friend walking towards me, projection happening. When it's just shifting information, shifting the projection, right? The projection shifting, laid onto shifting information. And that's all that's happening. And to hear me say that, my own mind goes, no, they're really there. And it's true, they are really there, because my seeds are shifting, my friend walking towards me, happening. Okay. So these natural laws of worldly natural laws, physics, right? All of that, all those natural laws are also similar projections had by beings who experience those natural laws. The natural laws are not, oh, finally, something in them, from them, we can rely upon. We can rely upon them because what it is to be human is to have the projections E equals mc squared. That isn't true when you're a worm. Oh, you just don't know it. It's still true. No, it's not. It doesn't even exist for the worm. Yes, it does, because they're energy, right? See, our minds are so tenacious about what we believe must be real, when in fact it's real because it's coming out of our seed ripening projections. So, do things change? No, the things don't change. Our seeds change. And so the apparent things appear to change. So functioning things are caused things. They are produced things. They are results, they are causes, all of those by way of projections forced by ripening karmas. All of it. The suffering in our world is caused by us expecting some result from another thing and then not getting it some of the time. It's almost like an unfortunate thing for the key to start the car as often as it does, because it allows us to continue to believe that keys are the cause of starting cars. If it only worked half the time, there'd be this crazy uncertainty. And when my car would get unreliable, out goes that one, a new one comes. Not new, brand new, but a different one comes. Because we need a reliable car. But you see, it was mistaken to just go replace it without having also done something to help somebody else get somewhere. So it was just lucky that every time we replaced one car with another, the next one worked more reliably for a while. But then I was using it to get me to work and me to the grocery store and not picking up hitchhikers and not taking the neighbor to the grocery store. Granted, I was going to work to help people. So that was in my favor. Right? That when we replaced a car that quit being a projection of reliable, because it changed, right? Wrong. My seat shifted and the next car was more reliable for a while. But mistakenly reliable, do you see? It didn't solve the problem. The apparent causation doesn't work. Causation that we believe in, worldly causation, doesn't work. It, in fact, never works. Every time the key turned the car on, it was not the key turning the car on. It was my karmic seeds ripening the key turning the car on. The key never did it. But we think the key starts the car. We think risky investments are the most powerful way to grow wealth fastest. But then, some whiz kid makes risky investment and gets wealthy, and whoa, the guy's brilliant. Somebody else does risky investment and loses it all. I'm like, what a loser. Why'd you do that? Somebody just plugs away with their money in the treasury account and they get wealthy. Others plug away with the money in the same treasury account and they still don't have enough. I mean, that's experience, that's life. Because none of those work to provide for our needs. None of those work to provide for our wealth. None of the keys start the cars. Helping people get somewhere provides cars and keys to start cars and gas or solar or electricity or whatever it is that we need to run the car. All of that is run by our own behavior. The seeds we plant by way of what we see ourselves think, do, and say is what makes the karmic seeds for our projections. So what causes anything in our world? Our behavior. What causes any good thing in our world? Our morality. Avoiding harming others, trying to be kind in specific ways, and doing both imbued with the mind of bodhicitta to help everybody gain the wisdom where they understand where things really come from. So lower schools say there are two kinds of deceptive reality. I think I have this in vocabulary. Oh, no, I don't. Kunso Dempa means deceptive truth, deceptive reality. Lower schools say there's two kinds of deceptive reality. There's right deceptive reality, and there's wrong deceptive reality, meaning accurately deceptive and inaccurately deceptive. So their example is the right deceptive reality is there's a lake. It exists. You can drink from it. You could drown in it. Right? You see the lake, you go there, you confirm that it's a lake of water there. It functions as we expect it to function. And so lower school says, see, it's deceptive reality because it's not self-existent. It depends on all these other factors. But it is a lake and it functions as a lake. Wrong deceptive reality is when you look out across the desert and you see water out there. And it's like, what's water doing there that hasn't rained in a long time? And so you go investigate and you get up close and you see, oh, it's a mirage. Wrong deceptive reality. I thought I saw water, but what I saw was a mirage. The water doesn't function in the way that I thought it would because there was no water there. It was a mirage. Lower schools say to see water there, it's actually a mirage, is a more wrong, a more deceptive reality than to see the lake there, which is a lake, but you're thinking it's a self-existent lake, when in fact it depends on all kinds of different factors. Do you see the difference? Correct deceptive reality is the lake. Wrong deceptive reality is seeing the water, but it's a mirage. They make this distinction because we're still holding that some objects have true natures of their own, not self-existently, but of their own, and others don't. So the water of the lake has some true nature of being water. The water of the mirage has no true nature of being water. It was simply an illusion of water by a mirage. What does Prasangika say to that? Get real. It doesn't matter. Both are deceptive reality. Neither the lake nor the water that turns out to be a mirage are ultimately what they seem. Conventionally, a lake is what it seems to be. But ultimately, it does not exist like that. Nothing is what they seem to be. The mirage, the water that turns out to be a mirage was not the water I thought it was. But the mirage that I think is there, that's not there either in the way I think. You know, sunlight going through, refracting through something. I don't know how mirages work, but there's a physics explanation of mirages, and we go, oh, okay, a mirage. But we're misunderstanding that as well. Lower schools insist that there's a difference between the way a lake functions and the way water that turns out to be a mirage functions. You can drink from a lake, you can't drink from a mirage. Is there proof? It's convincing until we understand what the difference is between them. It's not in the lake, it's not in the water that turns out to be a mirage. It's in the seeds ripening of the being perceiving lake, oh lake. Water, not water. When we're interacting with the changing things in our lives, we're believing that those changing things bring about the change that they're making. So we expect them to work the same way every single time. And when they don't work, we blame them, we blame somebody that it didn't work the way it was supposed to. And it leaves us upset, either wanting for more or hurt in some way. And our reaction to that misunderstood changing thing is to try to do something to make it do what we wanted it to do, or to make something else do what we wanted it to do, still believing that there's something we can do in the moment that will bring about the next moment's experience as the result. If it were true that what we do in the moment makes what comes next, in it, from it, we could never go wrong. But then we could never do anything different either, because the situation would be forcing us to experience it in the same way every single time, because it's in it, from it, not influenced by other factors. And it's like, well, that's ridiculous. Everything's influenced by other factors. And they have their natures in them. That's our state of mind. It's impossible for them to be both. And yet in our interactions with things, we hold them to be in them, from them, and unique experiences to me at the same time. And it's impossible. So middle way You know, they say, don't talk to us about risky investments, safe investments, just be generous. Don't talk to me about medicines that work or medicines that don't work. Protect other people's health. Help people feel better. And then do whatever you need to do when your health needs help. And whatever you do is more likely to be helpful if we've already loaded it with helping others when they don't feel well. You know, you hear somebody has a headache. I have some aspirin. Would you like some? Probably they're going to say no, but you tried and you get credit for trying. Oh, can I get you a glass of water? Yes, thank you. Will the glass of water cure their head cold? No, maybe, no. But trying to help them feel better is all we need. Those seeds grow. So deceptive reality functions by way of our ripening seeds. That's what it is to be deceptive reality, ripening seeds, but we don't perceive it that way. That's why it's deceptive. When we do perceive it as ripening seeds, we wouldn't call it deceptive reality anymore, but it's still appearing reality. Buddhas have appearances and emptiness. They don't perpetuate deceptive reality. They are aware of me perpetuating deceptive reality. Okay. So when we say, even though things are empty, they still work, that's revealing that we're holding to so strongly to this belief that a functioning thing has to have some fragment of its own identity to do what it's doing. When we say no, because things are empty, they work. Because they are empty, the key starts the car. That's technically incorrect. Because things are empty, my seeds ripen key starting car today is more accurate. It's a subtle but important difference. When we hear the key starting the car is nothing but projection, catch your mind to see if it says, oh, so it doesn't really happen. Just a figment of my imagination. We're working to get to the point where when we say, seed ripening car starting, key starting car, it's like, that's how it works. That's real. Any other key than seed ripening key starting car, any other key than that won't work, can't work, never worked, never will. When we go back and look at those two examples of deceptive reality, the point is neither one of those is accurate to deceptive reality. Deceptive reality means we're not understanding that it's my own projections, forced karmic seeds ripening. That is my experience. The lake doesn't drown you. Your karma drowns you. Technically, you could drown in the water that's a mirage. Technically, you could walk on the water that is the lake. Neither has anything in it from it other than the ripening projections of the mind experiencing it in the way that they do. Because things have no nature other than being projections, they work. How do they work? By way of the ripening karma. So whether the key starts the car or the key doesn't start the car, because of the emptiness, the key works. The karmic seed ripening happens. So whether it works or doesn't work, it works. Seed ripenings make reality. So even when we say, because things are empty, they work, we don't mean because medicine is empty, it can cure my infection. Because it's empty, my seeds can ripen for this medicine to work. The medicine never works. My seeds make the medicine appear to work or not appear to work or harm. Because things are empty, they work. In the way they appear to, forced by my karmic seeds. So in, where is that about mind-only school? Here it comes. So the way that the highest school described this is that they say things exist nominally. Nominally. When we use English, the word nominally, it's like the context often is, Bill's the head of the company, but I know Bill's wife, and she's really smart and opinionated and bossy. And I just happen to know that Bill's wife runs the show. So yes, Bill's the head of the company nominally, but it means somebody else is really in charge nominally. So in a sense, it means looks one way, but not really. Similar to the idea, looks like the identity is in it, but it's nothing but projection. Right? We're back into that conundrum of, is it real or isn't it real? When something exists nominally, it means in name only, which implies not in the way that we think, not in the way that we actually experience it, not in the way that we believe. In name only. Name and term, they say. Highest middle way says things are nominal and therefore they are real. Lower school says if things are just nominal, they can't be real. We're back to the same idea. When you hear nothing but projections, do they feel more real or less real? Honestly, right? Honestly, they feel less real. highest middle way has, what makes us highest middle way is when we hear, oh, that jerk boss only exists nominally. They become so real as my projection that I know exactly what I need to do to make them into the best, amazing boss I could ever have. Not in the moment, but given time, given my own ability to change how I interact with the boss. Yes, but more importantly, with everybody else. I could not change my interaction with the boss at all. And I could work with everybody else in my life, and the boss would change because I would change me. And I would interact with a whole lot of other people more often than I do the boss. So why not work on the boss in the arena outside of the boss? Plus, lower middle way says, existing in name only means the thing does not exist really. It's like an illusion, and so not real. Prasangika says, things are nominal and therefore are real. They are like illusions and real. So they're using the same word, but from this different understanding. Use the water and the mirage example. Lower school says, you see water in the desert that's not really water, what you've seen is a mirage. Highest school says, you see water in the desert, that's your projection. You see mirage in the desert, that's your projection. Equally projected, equally real. The water was there until your seed shifted and you saw it as a mirage. Then the mirage is there as your projection until you drive past it, and then even that's gone. Shifting seeds, shifting seeds. Cause and effect is the same. To see something cause another thing is simply information that our mind is molding into identities that are changing. And so tomato seeds do make tomato plants. So what are the lower schools missing? They're not able to wrap their mind around that the cause and effect relationship is also projection. Projection that the tomato seed is needed for a tomato plant. They believe that the tomato seed has something in it that makes tomato plants. And they extend that to include the seed made by their behavior. Those seeds made the imprints in our mind by our behavior. They're like tomato seeds. They have something in them that when the circumstances are right, brings it into its ripening, and it will be similar to the cause, only bigger. And so that means those mental seed imprints, they They have some kind of reality, and they need a place to stay while they are growing into their result. And this becomes the mind-only school's assertion of the kunshi, the foundation consciousness, the place where all those karmic seeds stay, right? In the process of the ones ripening, waiting to ripen, not waiting, but, being influenced. Highest school says, look, karma itself is projection. And it gets hard to really wrap our mind around that. It's like, no, we think karma is a principle and it has these 4 laws and everything obeys karma. But as we investigate and experience, we'll come to understand that no, our understanding of what we mean by karma and its 4 laws are also an experience in deceptive reality. And so therefore, part of a projection, it is projected. The karma and the laws of karma are projections. And does that make you think, oh, so they're not real? Oh, so I can change the laws of karma if I just change how I plant my seeds. And it's like, no, we can't change the laws of karma because there are no laws of karma to change. They are a description of our subject-object interaction between experience happening. They're an explanation of how that works. They don't establish how it works. They explain how it works. How it works is how it works. All right. So high school says, you don't need to have a foundation consciousness of kunshi as a place for where those karmic seeds, bakchucks, need to be stored. Because karma itself is empty of self-nature. Those karmic seeds are not little teeny things that need a place to be. The imprints of our minds, constantly shape-shifting our me and my world, is where those seeds are continuing. That is where the continuation of those seeds is happening. In our me, in our subject side. You don't need a refrigerator consciousness, says highest school. Is it okay to think of it that way? Absolutely. Because it's useful to think, I've got these little seeds inside me somewhere. Some are good ones, some are nasty ones. The nasty ones I want to damage, thank you very much. The good ones I want to grow. If having them in a little storehouse consciousness inside you somewhere is helpful, then feel free to interact with them in a way to clear out the ugly ones and make more good ones. Ultimately, you'll see, okay, that was useful. I've grown out of needing that. And we'll still be purifying and making merit without needing a storehouse consciousness for us to work with. All right. So why then is morality so critical to our future total enlightenment? I mean, I think I've said it over and over again without calling it morality. Every experience is projections ripening. Projections ripening means karmic seeds ripening. Karmic seeds ripening got there by way of what we thought, said, did towards others. And so a karmic seed that ripens into something pleasant had to be made by way of our awareness of being kind in some way. A ripening karmic seed that's unpleasant could only have been made by way of some similar unpleasantness we saw ourselves do towards another. Not because Buddha said so, but because that's how our mind works. That's how our mind stream works. That's how existence works. So if we want to be happy, and happiness is a pleasant thing, that's kind of a, by definition, right? Experiencing happiness can only happen as a result of some way in which we've tried to help somebody else have a little happiness. Can we make anybody happy? Actually, no. So you don't even have to be successful at making them happy. We just have to try. Honest, healthy effort to be pleasant with others creates our world in such a different way, like done with an understanding of why, creates our world in such a different way that our experience of those around us becomes, hey, they're trying to help me. Just trying. Whether they can do it or not doesn't matter. We learned that the details of karma are deeply hidden reality. Emptiness is medium hidden reality. Yeah, obvious reality is blue. So we can logic out the need for behavior change. And we can logic out general principles in what kinds of behaviors I want to stop doing and behaviors I would want to do more of, given that I'm human and I like certain things and don't like certain other things. But we can't even logic out the specific behaviors needed in order to go on to become a being who can help everyone stop their suffering someday. And so when we make this connection between my experiences and my behavior, we might just throw ourselves before Lord Buddha and say, tell me exactly, tell me the details of what I need to give up and what I need to take up in order to stop perpetuating this broken world. And Buddha will say, study the Vinaya, read the Jataka tales. All of that is specific instruction for our behavior. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's all been laid out for us. The better we understand the connection between our behavior and our experiences, the easier it is to live according to the morality the Buddha established. Because we don't need to prove it to ourselves anymore. And we say, okay, right? This is the behavior that will end the suffering. I'm just going to do it. And so we take vows. We learn about that morality and to increase the power of our behavior according to those new or habits. We take vows to avoid certain behaviors. Someday we even take vows to do certain behaviors, to increase the power with which we make our changed behaviors into a changed world. So Lama Tsongkhapa, he emphasizes, because things are empty, we must observe those empty laws of karma and behave morally if we want a future that's pleasant, let alone a future that's totally enlightened. There's no other way to do it than to change from our selfish me attitude to bodhicitta attitude. So that's why course 7 is vows, is the course about vows, particularly bodhisattva vows, because that's what establishes us as Mahayanas, is bodhisattva vows. So that completes our class 10, completes our course 6. We'll do review next week or on Thursday. And then be thinking of when your date, finish your final date will be. You guys decide, but let's decide on Thursday. Okay, so we can get that done. And we'll also see if we can find a time for the Diamond Cutter Sutra Loom. Okay, all right. So remember that person we wanted to be able to help. We have learned a lot that we will use to help them in that deep and ultimate way. And that's an extraordinary goodness. So please be happy with yourself. Be happy with all the past yous that brought you here. And think of all this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy guide. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you, carry you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It fills you so full you can't contain it. We want to keep it forever, and so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person. To share it with everyone you love. To share it with every being you've ever seen or heard of. See them all filled with wisdom. And so filled with loving kindness. And may it be so. All right. Thank you, everybody. I think I put everybody to sleep with this class. Oh, well. I'm stopping the recording.